I feel like I don't have much to contribute here, but you know what?
Shaq is with us again for episode 5. Can you believe it?
How lucky are we to get him back for another episode? We can't keep him out of the recording studio.
They can't. You should lock that door. You really should.
But where's Cease? Why is he never here?
He's, I think, teaching.
You think?
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best Cease impression. Hello. I can't go low enough.
You have to do the walk, though.
You do have to.
Yeah.
It's like a swagger. I have to stand up for that.
Yeah.
It's a very distinctive swagger. But he is not here with us right now. We did record a segment with him.
Yeah, but we needed to record an introduction to the show because this show actually, we get into territory here that we haven't gotten into yet. So what you're going to hear, is we had a couple of people who were requested by numerous students to come on the show. One of them was Mr. Belt. The other one was Ms. Baker. And they both made it on the show. And we recorded a pretty interesting discussion with them that veered into territory that we didn't plan to veer into.
And you know what? Once it gets off or wherever, we just go with it. This is the sort of podcast where we're just going to explore whatever comes up.
Yeah. And what do you expect from social studies teachers? I mean, really.
Yeah. So, with no further ado,
Here it is.
I actually have been telling the story that I'm a werewolf for how old am I? 35? For almost 20 years. Nice. Just people are like, I'm a werewolf. And I say I got turned into a werewolf at Coach Mann's house going into freshman year of high school. So I just stick with that story. Are you recording this? That was a bit of a mistake.
So the thing about Robinson is you never know what he's going to use in this when he puts it together.
You should sit closer, though.
Okay. It's happening.
Lawler's really loud.
Sit that way, Lawler.
Yeah.
But yeah, it ends up being things that you don't think end up being. And
well,
hey, welcome to social. Welcome to Social Buddies, Mr. Belt. It's great to have you here.
We should introduce everybody again.
My name's Kevin Cease.
I'm Stephen Robinson.
Pat Lawler.
We're saying our first names. Christopher Belt.
Yeah. And Mr. Belt is here for the episode because he's been the top of the request list.
Sweet.
That's
what happens when you give kids candy.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
I know we had some questions that were submitted or topics by the students, but I have some questions. I don't know if you guys have questions as well. But
whoa. On that parchment?
Yeah. Hey. Why are you wearing a werewolf hand again?
I am a werewolf. Freshman year of high school. Going into freshman year of high school, I was staying at Coach Mann's house. And
was he Coach Mann then?
He wasn't then, but I knew it was inside of him at some point. And ironically, we were watching American Werewolf in Paris. And I went to use the bathroom, and I heard growling in the bedroom door that was near the bathroom. And he doesn't have a dog, so I opened the door, and a dog head kind of bit my leg, and I crawled into the bathroom. And then after I cleaned it up, I opened the door, and it was just his mom's boyfriend laying on the bed. So, he was a werewolf too.
Oh my god!
So he turned me into a werewolf, and then have you ever woken up in a cornfield covered in blood?
No.
Ooh, are you going to cut that out? Is that too far?
I am so confused right now.
So
what was going on in this?
That was freshman year here at Normal Community, the old Normal Community at Kingsley, right?
Yes.
You went to school there.
Yes.
You're a Normal Community grad.
I am a grad.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your senior year, was that at the old building as well?
Yes.
You never went to school when
I call this the Weird Robot School.
Yes.
This is the Weird Robot School. I don't even fully acknowledge Kingsley as an actual institution. It's just my old high school.
Oh,
wow.
Well,
that's awesome.
We some students submitted questions for you.
I already explained the werewolf hand. Okay, it's not about that.
I don't think that's one of them.
This closing in 5 minutes. All students must be checked in.
This happened last time.
It's a good.
Provided by an adult. If you are not staying for an after-school activity, please report to the front doors to wait for your ride.
I feel like Mauer's a guest on our podcast
every
every
time.
time.
Thanks, Mauer. Why the Green Lantern ring?
Okay, so it's more toys I have to
This
explain.
is a student question.
Okay.
More toys.
Yeah, more toys I have to explain. Okay, so I am a comic book nerd, and I like Green Lantern specifically. There's a black one. There's a black one. And everyone's like, so you like the black one? I was like, yes, I do. But I do.
Wait. For our listeners who don't know us,
I'm a black. I've been accused of talking white, but I don't know how deeply you want to deconstruct race and the concept of whiteness and how it's not a thing. But I like Green Lantern because their powers are like they can use their rings and they can use their imaginations to do like anything they want. But in the comics, usually it's like there's a big monster and I use my ring to make a giant boxing glove to punch the monster or something.
Wow.
So I just like the idea of like you can use your imagination to do whatever. Also, the rings are powered by willpower, and that's kind of like my mantra. I do actually wear the ring in times when I'm stressed, like keep going. So I like wear the ring all the time to like willpower.
I didn't know.
Do
that.
you ever wear the ring over the werewolf hand?
I've tried. It doesn't.
My second question is, if you can do anything you want, what do you think the Green Lantern would do with standards-based grading?
Too far.
Too far. Well, sorry. Can't help
Nice.
myself.
well, that explains the ring.
That's a good answer.
Should I continue with these
Do
student
it.
questions?
Interesting.
I'm just gonna go in the order they were
Okay.
given to me. Mr. Belt,
Yes.
a student wants to know, what is the meaning of life?
This is okay. I say this all the time. It's not even that hard. It's easy, and I'm annoyed that everyone's like, "What's the meaning of life?" It's literally to grow and continue to grow, and also growing in your capacity to be empathetic and give and receive love. That's it. Not that hard.
Good.
Easy.
All right,
I like
I
that
don't know.
answer.
that's a good answer.
I know, but it's like really intuitive and obvious. But
It's
everyone complicates it.
no,
It
but
gets
it's better than the answer I give people. I just tell them that there is no meaning.
What about,
that they're doomed to existential
So-
dread, and that they could potentially create meaning through positive action or
Right.
interaction, but it's no guarantee.
I mean,
Ultimately, we're stardust hurtling through space in a vast emptiness.
couldn't you argue that the meaning of life is found in our death? Because if we lived forever, what would be the meaning of life? There's no reason to do anything. But because we die,
I have more time for like comic books and.
but because we die, it means that we need to use the time we have
Yeah,
that
I
much
know.
more. I mean, think about it this way. And this was something that I think I heard from Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's why nobody on Valentine's Day ever gets a plastic flower for someone. Because you know that real flower is going to die. It carries more meaning.
Wow.
I don't know.
Deep thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lawler.
Cease, we've all chimed in about this. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm good.
That's me.
I haven't formed my opinion on this topic yet.
Just make sure you're good.
I like what Belt said, though.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about Stefan, though.
I'm not.
It's a little negative.
I'm
But
not.
I get you.
You know, like Ta-Nehisi Coates is big on like telling people he's not a merchant of hope. Neither am I.
That's fair. That's fair.
Everybody, we're all teachers, and we all have to do teacher small talk. You know
Yeah,
all that
yeah.
teacher small talk.
I can't.
Live in the dream. You know, people always say that.
Yeah.
I'm living the reality,
Living the reality.
and reality is just not always very hopeful.
No.
It's
Yeah.
just true.
I don't know if this is helping our listenership right now.
I think the downloads are going
You
to
would be
decrease.
quite possibly the worst inspirational speaker I think I've ever heard.
Hey,
Sometimes reality sucks. Buy my book.
welcome.
Baker.
Come on in,
Come
LaTishia.
in.
We have got to get. We're talking about the meaning of life, Mrs. Baker. Would you like to?
We
Baker,
actually
come in, Baker.
mentioned how you
'Cause-
tweeted Chris Rock.
And last time you knocked on the door during one of our recordings, you scowled at us and left.
Did you hear back from Chris Rock?
What's up?
You did hear back from him?
I have not.
Baker, what's the meaning of life?
You know, walk into that one, just the heaviest one.
Yeah, I mean, or you could talk about the tweet that you sent to Chris Rock.
That is, maybe that's the meaning of life.
Tweeting.
The meaning of life is all about establishing relationships.
Yes.
connecting with other individuals, whether or not they're in your zone or not. Appreciating all humans across the spectrum, regardless culture, creed, income, gender, age, anything, ability. I try really hard to love on everyone and anyone, which is sometimes strange because I touch people, but
That was so
That's how you
inspirational
transfer.
compared to Mr. Robinson, who started talking about how we're all just stardust flying through space.
literally.
Yes.
It's true.
Figuratively.
It's meaningless.
But I would like to think somewhere there's some child that will say, hey, yeah, high school sucked, but I had this really nice person that would say, hey, I love you every single day. They're not going to remember the first 10 amendments to the Constitution.
I guarantee you that you have produced that result many times.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I will say, when I'm in public and I run into former students, you are always the first name that they bring up. How's Baker doing? How's Baker doing?
That's nice.
So you are definitely making that impact on people.
Well, there's not a whole lot of us, so.
Hold on, wait a second. What
What
do
you
you
have just shared with Chris Rock.
What do you mean by us?
I mean, brown people.
That's what it said.
For the people who can't see who's in the studio right now, 2/5 of us are black.
We almost can add up to a whole vote. It's okay because I said it. It's okay 'cause I
Wu
said
Tang, keeping it real goes wrong.
We're getting real on this
This is-
episode.
it. Okay, I know that as a black, I personally enjoy playing with racial tension.
Absolutely.
I also feel like I have to make the joke first so I can control the way it's spoken about.
Yes.
So it's like, I'll go. I know. I'm one of the few. 17 of one of the 17. So it's like, but I also like to do it to put people at ease.
Yes.
Because like if I'm laughing at the joke, it kind of cuts the tension somewhat. But then again, it's also like I can control. It's like you don't make the joke because sometimes I do have kids. Well, it is one thing. Maybe you can attest to this. Once you become a black, when you've been marked as being non-threatening, then many of the whites have questions. Or worse, questions are fine. Worse, they have jokes. So it's like, hey, you're not gonna get mad. Or if you do get mad, it won't be so uncomfortable. So listen to this black joke. And like sometimes it's funny, but then it's like, dude, this is like the 4th day in a row. So is it a joke? Or are you couching your actual attitude in a joke? So I actually had to do that with a kid today. I was like, this is like day 3. Kind of weird. Day 3's weird. Also, day 3's weird when it's like you're initiating. Like I haven't if I've initiated and we're bantering back and forth, okay. But it's day 3. I haven't said anything for 3 days, and you keep coming at me. It's like, okay, let's dial it down some. And I'm gonna call it like maybe, and then it's like no. It's like okay, you go think about it at night when you're by yourself. Right now, you're not gonna admit to it. Go home by yourself, and then you think about it. And then it's like okay.
So how does it? You've heard this before.
Yeah.
That I have students in the past have called me because we have somewhat similar perspectives on things. I have been called the white belt before, and I always am like, there's a lot of layers to why.
See, okay, that instance, I feel like that is one of those times where the description doesn't have any connotations beyond the physical appearance. There isn't like.
So you don't see that as problematic?
No, I don't see it as problematic. I don't see any reference. I don't see every reference to race as being problematic. Because sometimes kids are like, my black teacher. I'm like, dude, it's okay. I'm your black teacher. It's fine. It's just, but it's hard to, I don't know. But honestly, even the term black has a negative connotation. It's like the Black Death, the Black Plague. And I do think the physical descriptor is part of the oppression to a degree. And it's interesting because my mixed son doesn't say black. He refers to me as being dark brown. Which I'm like, weird. You don't have the social construct of racial descriptors yet. You're just literally like, you're dark brown. Because he actually has a cultural bias for black, dark brown males. because he watched like a Spider-Man video and they showed this black dude for like a half a second, and he's like, "I like that guy." I was like, "Wait, what?" That guy. I was like, "Why?" It's like, "Because he's dark brown like you." I was like, "Okay, that makes sense. I am your dad. You love your dad."
That's
so that makes
awesome.
sense.
So if he were to like see Robinson, would he say, "You're kind of pink"?
No, he says he does say white though, because he. This is another funny one. He held Coach Mann's son at a basketball game. And I showed him the picture like a year later, and he wanted to show his mom. He's like, "Mom, look, here's me holding that white baby." It's like, yeah.
Because Coach Mann's son is mixed as well. But,
But
way lighter.
he's only a quarter. Yeah, he's
Okay.
only a quarter, whereas mine's are halfies. But yeah, it's like white baby. So I don't know. It's been interesting having a mixed child and mixed marriage. Because Miss Baez, who may went on the show, showed me an article about how racial bias can appear in children as early as 6 months.
Wow.
And the reason for it is really obvious. It's lack of exposure. It's like
Absolutely.
I've only seen white or brown or whatever faces. So anything different's gonna, put me on edge or put me on the defensive. So
I would say that to you like every time. Like
Yeah.
Emerson was here, I was like, that child needs to be around more black people. So he would back up like, "Eek," and I was like, dude, you got to do better.
that's what. Well, that's what Lewis has hung out with him a few times. She's helping out.
Thank you.
But I do think it is just a lack of exposure is all it is. Because it's easy to be scared of something you don't know much about.
Sure.
And you're like, what? Like, you eat chicken, it's got more seasoning on it, but it's still chicken.
Yeah, I'm
so-
in a building filled with white people. I'm constantly frightened. Y'all do crazy stuff sometimes.
I feel less scared and more like there's always an underlying like sense of awkwardness, or like if I walk in, like when I walk into Meijer, I know everyone sees me. Everyone knows I'm in there. So then you have like the mental game of like, okay, everyone knows I'm here, but how many of them think negatively of me? And do my glasses soften my appearance enough so they don't think I'm going to steal or snatch their purse or something? So it's just, and I say for the whites, it's like when you go to a part of Chicago and you're like, weird, the clerks at Target are black, everyone's black but me. And it feels kind of weird. It's like, yes, that's me every day.
Yeah, dude.
Every day.
I used to tour with Yavika
Yeah,
Static.
yeah.
Okay, and we would play with punk bands, and we would play everywhere we would go. It was a bunch of white people,
Right.
And Moses, Kid Static, was the only black dude at many of the things we would do.
Right.
It was something I had never thought about. And then there was one day where I went to Soul Vegetarian on the south side of Chicago, a black-owned vegan soul food restaurant in a predominantly black neighborhood, and I was the only white person in there.
For miles around.
Yeah, I went there by myself because I
Yeah.
love that place, and I was in Chicago for something. I don't remember what I was doing, but I went to Soul Vegetarian. And it was the first time in my life where it had occurred to me what Moses experienced everywhere we went
Because you go,
as a
boom,
band.
and then everyone's like,
Yeah.
and a lot
And
of
it's
times,
sad. I mean, it was like, I felt like that's something I should have thought about.
I love to roll up on little white children in public. Because I'm just like, cease! And then I'm like, hey, I love you. And then, the student's like, oh, hi, thank you. And the parents are like, paralyzed with fear. Like, who is this person? It's hilarious. And then they'll have to explain the narrative, and it takes a
Right.
minute, and then they're thinking like, this is your favorite teacher? Like,
I've had that like 3 times this week actually.
Yep.
Because one student got, I don't know if this is going to be administration, but a kid got permission from administration. Whenever they're upset, they can come see me. It's
Yeah.
like, we tell a kid that they're never going to leave.
Right.
But she told her mom about like a teacher she reached out to and showed her a picture. And then I guess they're in the store and she went, "He's black?" in the stores.
Oh my God.
Yes, he's black. And I don't know about you, but I feel like it's always been, I'm like the black ambassador, where it's like,
dude, I've been doing this 20 years.
that's what like calmly
your baby
explaining.
sauce. I trudged a whole damn path for you.
To be
I
totally
like
honest,
sojourner truth out here.
no,
Ain't I
that's
a
absolutely the
woman?
case. Okay, what I need you to do is start telling the kids that I don't want handprints on my wall. I'm serious because I could get.
Do they assume that of you because you're
Yes!
like one of the other few black teachers in the building?
I mean, we're both chill and we give kids food. I think that's part of it too, and make kids feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But they're like, I'm gonna put my handprint. I'm like, I'm not Miss Baker. I say that like once. I'm not Miss Baker. We're both black and chill, but no. So I've been doing things like just having kids like paint a ceiling tile or something.
Oh,
just
sure.
Spruce
That's
it up.
good.
Nice.
I wonder if students understand how much, like we as social studies teachers, you as experiencing this, think about race and the implications of race in the school, because I think about it a lot.
Yeah.
And you unavoidably have to think about it.
Right. I think it's interesting that our professional development has shifted into that direction.
Yeah.
And actually, in my little meeting, of course, I was the only black in my group. And I said, I count the brown kids in every class immediately. Like right away, I'm like, oh, there's 6 in here. There's 6. And the other teacher's like, I don't do that. And at first I was like, why? But then I do feel like I've gotten to a point where I can begin to empathize with white people, which as a minority, you're like kind of taught like, just bash them and make them feel bad for oppression. But I've always been like, not all of the whites are responsible for all of the oppression. So for the ones who aren't, learning about history is traumatizing for whites too. So like, you didn't do any of that stuff. You think it's weird too, or bad too. So I think or at least the group that said they don't count, I think perhaps as a white person you don't count, so you don't kind of set yourself up for treating them differently. Because maybe if you do count, you'll be more likely to treat them differently, and you're trying as hard as you can not to do that. So I was like, maybe that's the case.
Oh no, are you talking about my students of color? That bar is way high.
I just mean like counting them, because like I said, I just count them like 8 out of the 25
sure.
are brown.
Yeah,
but I think
noticed.
if they count them, I don't know, maybe it'll bring it to the forefront of their consciousness, and then they'll treat them differently, or their otherness will be more apparent, and they'll be more likely to treat them differently.
Like, have either of the 3 white dudes in the room right now counted how many black and brown students we have, like just instinctively? I've never done that.
I do every time I come in your room.
Well, I know you do, but
Why are there only 3 white people? Why are they all sitting together?
You always
That's
say
true. That's
point.
really relevant,
Yeah.
especially some of the AP classes.
I always
when
do
you come
that.
by AP Psych,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have a lot of groups that are unrepresented in those AP classes in the building.
Yeah.
And we need to ask why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that's good that our administration is like maybe shifted to some extent some of the professional development or like the conversation to that topic.
Wow, I was like, wow, we're really doing this. We're doing this.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay with it. I mean, I like it. But
I actually stopped going to the book talk that we had on white
Really?
fragility.
Okay, I'm curious as how that went.
Because I was the elephant in the room, and I felt like those individuals couldn't have a true dialogue about their whiteness
Without
with me
you
sitting there. Of course, I'm reading the book like, yeah, right? That's my whole life. Like, and
Yeah.
making assumptions and such. And so I literally went to the administrator and I said, here's the thing. It's not that I'm trying to disengage, but I feel as though that you would have a much more authentic conversation if the subject of this is not sitting in the room. And the other individuals, like, I asked specifically Hunter, he said, yeah, it got real after you left. And I said, but that's okay because I've been black my whole life. I'm glad that you're having these conversations.
Is there? I mean, so the focus of the book was white fragility, but I feel
Talking
like
about
I feel
race.
like just the fact that you leaving the room impacts the discussion so much is in and of itself a pretty potent demonstration of white fragility.
Yeah.
And I guess as a white teacher, I feel like my best experiences have been when I've been put outside of my comfort zone.
Sure.
I remember a class I took at ISU where I was one of like 3 white students, and it was like 7 black women who were insanely smart when it came to Black history in America, which was the focus of the class. And I remember one day we were watching a documentary on lynching in class, and the other white male fell asleep. And so I'm like sitting on the other side of the room, and I'm thinking like, dude, wake up. You are making me look bad. And then I'd stop and think like, oh my God, is this, like kind of like you said, you had that experience that kind of opened your eyes. It's like, is this what it's like when I have like 2 black males in class?
Yes.
That they feel like they're being judged based on, that they're not seen as an individual.
Right.
And I probably was being seen as an individual, but it's still not knowing what are the is the teacher thinking, what are other people thinking. I was like, dang, this would be stressful if I had to endure this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And that experience for me was pretty eye-opening.
And it's the other thing about it is, like you said, there's a good chance like they weren't judging you negatively. Like that guy is a bad dude, but he's up and paying attention. He's cool. But it's like that line of thinking becomes exhausting when you're constantly like, who does what, or who feels what, or am I being perceived as an individual or as a group? Because what you describe is that's how I felt every time there would be like a ghetto family. I worked at TJ Maxx for 4 years. Every time like a ghetto family come in, I'd be like, oh God.
There goes 200 years.
And I know. Or it's like, I know I'm going to have at least one other white coworker come up and say, why do the blacks? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Which I honestly do know. But it's like, I don't want to be the spokesperson for all the blacks, though.
You know what is interesting about what you just said is when you said the phrase "ghetto family" come in. If a white dude had said that in this room, I would have felt extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But why don't I feel uncomfortable when you say there's a whole historical background and context and whatever?
Right, it's context. Someone else
that would not be okay if I would have said that.
Someone else said the N-word thing. Like, why? I always get kids say, why can't the whites say it? But the best description I've heard is like the context is different. It's like if I had a girlfriend and if I go up to my girlfriend and hug her because of our relationship, it's fine. But if a stranger hugged my girlfriend, there's a problem. You have a different relationship with that person, just as white people have a different relationship with the word. The context is different, so that's what that explains the difference. Like that was an explanation that I felt like
that's a really good explanation.
Yeah,
it makes me think like if you called her like honey, and I came up and I was like, hey honey,
I'd be like, dude, what are you doing? Exactly.
That would be not good.
That would be not good. Yeah. So
Except I call everybody honey.
Well, I mean, I can't think of pet names. I'm not good with that.
I was also going to say something a little bit more explicit, not too explicit, but I held back for the podcast.
Hey, thanks.
We could always edit it out.
I want to say this is.
I don't want to make your life.
I think this is the deepest podcast in a good way that I think we've had. We're talking about
just the racial issue is like, I mean, kind of what we've done in our professional development. Like as a country, we've never like gone there. I felt like throughout the like late 80s, 90s, and early like pre-Trump, I felt like we were like really superficial and fakey about the racial issue. And since like the most egregious, overt things weren't happening, we've done it. And then once Obama got elected, it was like, it's for sure over. Obama's president, racism's over.
Right.
But I think when Trump got elected, for good or for bad, I think the superficiality got, swept aside, and now everyone's kind of dealing with the bear. So now it's like, oh, we do need to have a real discussion about race, which I'm moving. I do it all the time, and with the literature that we teach, there's definitely opportunities for it. But I feel like the key is deconstructing the idea of whiteness. Like white isn't a thing. Like black's not, like my son doesn't even say black because I'd have to teach him to say that. And I feel like you'd have to teach with white too. Because it is just the description of who has access to privilege and power. It isn't really a description of physical appearance. So stuff like Italians and Irish weren't considered white until the 50s.
Sure, the shift.
Yeah,
and so shift. Now, Spanish-speaking individuals have taken on.
They can be white now. They can be white now too. And then for me, as a black who's always been told, you act white. And I'm just like, do I? And really, I just think it's speech. And it's just that the way that I talk is similar to those who have access to privilege and power. So you act white. Also, I have a stable, I do have access. To privilege to a degree. It's like I have a middle income, life. I have a house and a mortgage, and, I'm healthy and stable. I don't have a criminal record besides tickets. You know what I mean? Like and that's the other thing is I don't fall neatly into the stereotype. I feel like if you're non-white, if you deviate from one of the 5 things on your stereotype list, you act white. And the top one is the way that you talk. And then after that, it's like, you just go down the list. But yeah, I had an epiphany teaching where I'd always been self-conscious about the you act white thing until my second or third year teaching. I had a Hispanic kid say, hey, when people tell me I act white, and I was like, whoa, what? That happens to you too? And then I had a Korean kid tell me that too. So then it was like, okay, something's here And it's not just about my own personal insecurities. It is about the construct of whiteness. And it's just like they just don't do, like the Korean kid spoke perfect English, and the Hispanic kid liked to draw comic book characters. And that was like, you're Hispanic, you're supposed to, not do well in school and whatever the other Hispanic stereotypes are. So I don't know. I think we just got to deconstruct whiteness and focus on humanity.
Could some of that be, once again, to get back to that idea of white privilege, the uncomfortable nature for white people of getting themselves outside of their own cultural framework, so that people of color oftentimes, when someone is told that they're acting white, it's that they are just better at making white people feel comfortable within their own cultural framework?
I do think that is a big part of it, too. Because I felt like, the joke I say is like, oh, you don't, the first thing is like, you don't talk like the stereotype, so that puts me at ease. And then, like, unfortunately, other especially black male stereotypes are like angry, aggressive, scary. So then once I'm not scary and angry, and it's like I'm at ease, and typically the browns put me at dis-ease, so this ease feels familiar, like whites. You act white. It's like, okay, you don't make me uncomfortable, but I do think it is those who can make the whites feel more comfortable, like, oh, this feels like, like I'm just talking to like a cousin or something.
Y'all thought we were just going to talk about Green Lantern rings.
Yeah, sorry.
And that werewolf
hands. By the way, Mr. Bell has been wearing a werewolf hand this entire time.
This entire time.
And a Dragon Ball Z shirt.
Yeah, it happens.
I just want to say I'm really excited we've gotten Bake on the podcast, too. She has been really wanting to be on this podcast.
And giving us crap.
You could say Bake's been trolling us.
Yeah, on Instagram.
She shared a meme about every group of, what do you call a group of three mediocre white guys when they get together? A podcast?
Yeah, that was good. And then,
so it's been effective.
Yeah,
trolling.
and then there was another photo of like all white furniture, all white.
That's the one I saw.
What did you share with that? What is this, like a message like, what does this remind you of? Social buddies. So how does it feel to finally be a part of the podcast?
I feel vindicated. I've hit the mountaintop.
I feel like you could have your own podcast, and it would be amazing.
Yeah.
Not that we won competition.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we don't, but...
I speak the truth. I get tired, though. Like right now, the kids are reading To Kill a Mockingbird, and they always want to talk to me about Calpurnia. Or else, when they're reading, the other book, I'm Tituba.
I know. And see,
Bam.
I don't get that as much, but like when I was in high school, I was like the black character, and everyone was like, that's you. So, like, there's like 7th grade, in Glory. I'll never forget, in Glory, there's a black dude with glasses named Thomas.
Yes.
And everyone's like, Thomas. I'm like, I'm not Thomas, God. I'm not Thomas. It's ridiculous.
You know what I really appreciate about having you in the office too, Bake, is when I'm talking about stuff, because I'm just not always aware of that like white hegemony and in terms of white culture when I do something, and I get called on it, like, that's a crazy white person thing. And I'm like, I hadn't thought about it, but why am I doing this?
Riding your bicycle to school in sub-zero temperatures.
Guilty as charged.
I also get accused a lot of crazy white people things. I feel as though
But
drinking warm water.
But other white people think you're crazy. So how do you navigate that?
But I do appreciate having to be introspective about why I do the things I do, or where do some of these cultural practices come from? Because it's easy to look at but like it's hard to inwardly look at your own culture when
you're in it.
Like
I don't know, and we're in a weird place in our community where our diversity is growing. Because like I used to go here, I was the only brown, or no more than 3 to 4 browns in every class, K through 12.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, there's 8 browns in here. Like that was all of them in my whole entire class. Right there. It wasn't that small. I think my class was about 30 of 300.
Oh, wow.
About 30 of 300 were brown, not black, brown.
Yeah, and the school I went to was majority black and Latino, which is when I came here, I thought the place was too white for me, and I'm super white.
I know you're like hell.
I'm super white.
Oh, Stefan.
I think it's see, maybe you're not as white as you think.
Your nickname,
You've
Super
been
White?
around
Super white.
You've been around too much diversity.
I remember when I was at ISU, and they were like, "You need to have a diverse experience. We're gonna send you to an all-black school in Chicago. Like, send me to Central Catholic. I'm from Kankakee."
Yeah, no, I've already done that.
They didn't understand what I was saying.
No, they're like, shut up, you're from the suburbs of Chicago
Yeah.
like everyone else.
You're
is.
white. Mr. Belt, somebody did challenge you. I don't know who. Both didn't tell us the name. Somebody challenged you to a one-on-one basketball tournament.
Who?
A basketball game. I don't know. He
It
didn't give
was
me
somebody
the name.
ink spot wise, I think.
Somebody from the
I
ink
will-
spot.
I don't want to say murder, maybe that's too far. But I will beat them in basketball. I'm really good. That is one of the stereotypes I do conform to. I'm very good at basketball.
Well, let's be honest
bring it.
about. Are you anything without Mr. Robinson and I on your team?
Yeah,
Remember
didn't you guys?
we did
no,
a
I
tournament?
remember.
We
We
did
did
a
a
3v3
3v3
together.
Yeah,
Three.
we were in a
Did you
tournament
win?
together.
Yeah, no,
No.
we didn't win.
No.
But
I like
We
to
won a
think-
game.
We
I
did
like to
win a
think
game.
I carried the team.
To be fair, I was the weakest link.
No,
We
I
should
was
be
the weakest
honest.
link.
No, you
I- no,
posted
are you
up under
kidding?
and got rebounds.
I've got no hand-eye
Hey, you
coordination.
played basketball in high school.
I did.
Yeah, I was
You
by
played
far the
basketball in high
weakest.
school?
Yes. So freshman year.
And tennis and soccer.
and soccer.
He's
He
like
got
Mr.
booted from
Athlete.
tennis, though.
You know what else I think a lot of you would be interested
got
to
what?
know?
Booted.
I got kicked off the soccer team,
Oh, the
not the
soccer
tennis
Not
team.
tennis.
You got kicked off the field.
I got kicked
we,
off
we
the team
explored that on.
during a game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
because I protested against the coach.
You know, I was surprised. in that-
why? Because you wouldn't let everyone
Wow.
play at once. Because like it's
Hey, everybody needs to get in.
I was surprised how competitive Robinson was in that 3-on-3 tournament.
I was
like,
hell yeah.
I was like, wow, he's really wants to win.
Sports are fun.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's
Sports are fun. So 1v1. We'll find out who the kid is.
Yeah.
Tell me who the kid is. Bring it on.
We'll do a live podcast.
The other questions are too heavy. It would be
Yeah.
another 30 minutes.
Really?
One of them is about regrets in life, and one of them is about how to make someone happy. These are fair questions.
Yeah.
It's
These
just
are all
they're very deep.
I
and-
feel like some of these I can answer concisely because it's not that hard. I don't feel like it's that hard. Everyone complicates everything. But I don't know. We can hold off if you want. What was the first one again?
it was
regrets.
about what your biggest regret.
My
in
biggest
life.
regret?
Yeah, we don't really have to do that if you don't want to.
I have one. I let one of my witch kids turn my baby girl into a boy with her tarot cards. My wife was pregnant. Hold on a second.
Like, this needs a whole.
Oh, this
we
is
can't
not.
end the podcast with that.
Oh my god, that was amazing. Right?
Thank you, Shaq.
Yeah, I
Thank
mean,
you.
did you learn a lot from that conversation about race and life and werewolves?
I always learn so much when I'm around you all. It's amazing that my brain can contain all the
What
information.
was
I
the
learned.
main takeaway you took away from that conversation?
Yeah, what'd you learn from that, Mr. Shackley?
Well, I'm definitely going to lock my door for werewolves. But aside from that, very insightful just as far as the amount of information that you're able to fit into a short podcast.
Thanks again for tuning in to Social Buddies, everybody.
And as always,
Bye.
Stay informed.
Good job.
we always end every episode that way.
Hey,
That was good,
Thank
thanks.
you.
No, anytime.
This is our best episode ever.